Well, this mastery session is all about the small win principle for maximum performance. And I'm going to dive right in. So I read this fascinating article a little while ago in the Harvard Business Review, and it was called The Power of Small Wins. And the researchers studied 238 managers. And at the end of the day, the managers were asked to write in a journal about the quality of the day. And what they found was this, and they studied 12,000 of these journal entries, 12,000. And what the researchers found is this one powerful insight. And here it is. On the days that the managers had what they called their best days, the managers had made some acts of incremental progress. In their journals, they had said, well, we were dealing with a computer bug and we made a tiny win towards the vision of the organization. Or we were dealing with a difficult customer, but we made some progress in building the relationship. And on the days that the managers recorded their worst days, it was because there was some kind of a setback during their days. Now this, I believe, is a really powerful insight for you and I as we rise to world class in our productivity, our performance, and our impact on our industries. What it means is this: if you want to stay fired up, develop a truly focused mindset, feel emotionally alive, feel inspired, develop higher levels of drive, and stay on your best game, then we need to do this. Celebrate tiny wins at the end of every single day. I'm going to repeat that again because it's so important. You want to stay on your best game? Celebrate progress versus looking for perfection. So how do you do this? Well, there's two tools that I want to offer to you with great respect and great encouragement. Number one, I call it the nightly 3. At the end of your day, maybe you're going to, keep some kind of a piece of paper by your bedside. Maybe you do it after dinner. Maybe you do it while you're going for a walk. But just think about 3 great things that happen to you during the day. Again, that's celebrating the progress, because here's another big idea. Our brains are hardwired for negativity. Our brains are hardwired, according to science, for ingratitude. And it helped us so many thousands of years ago when we fought saber-toothed tigers and lived on the savannah. We have a negativity bias in the brain. So literally, our brains focus on what's negative in our environment. That allowed us to survive thousands of years ago. But here it is in the modern age, and we still are training our brains subconsciously to focus on what went wrong during our day versus all the progress and the things that went right. And using this tool, it will allow a pharmacy of mastery to operate in your brain, so you release dopamine, you release serotonin, you feel better, you feel stronger, you become undefeatable. The second tool I offer to you to really leverage the small win principle for maximum performance is keeping a daily progress journal. Now, if you followed me before, you know I love journaling. It heightens awareness, it deepens your intentions, it boosts performance. It's a great place to capture creativity. But if every day you write about your progress, you write about where you're winning, that's a great question to journal on. Where am I winning? You start to train your brain to focus on progress. You focus on where you're winning. You focus on what's positive. And again, according to the science, that will fuel you emotionally. It'll make you feel stronger. You're going to grow in confidence, and you will take your productivity to your next level of world class.
The first thing I want you to know that success is not a destination, it's a journey. Think of success as a process. Let me illustrate it and explain it this way. If you go to college, you work hard, and in 4 or 5 years, depending on what kind of degree you're working on, and in today's society, sometimes 6 or 7 years, but eventually comes the day of graduation, and you're all excited, and your family is there, and your friends are there, and you're there with your classmates, and you got your cap and your gown, and you know that there's going to be a time in that ceremony where you're going to walk across stage, and the president, provost, somebody's going to shake your hand, hand you a diploma, congratulate you, and you're going to get off the other side. They're going to have presents waiting for you, and they'll be taking pictures, and everybody will be shaking your hand, say, congratulations, today you become a success. You're a college graduate. Now, my friend, you did not become a success the day that you got your diploma. Now, what you did have happen to you in that ceremony is you got recognized for success. The diploma is recognition of what you have done the previous 4 or 5 years. You see, you were a success in your freshman year when you decided to not drop out of school like some of your other classmates and decided to stick to it. And you were a success every time you studied for a test. And you were a success every time you did a project or did a writing assignment. You see, you're a success all through school. You're a success every day. Success is a daily thing, not a destination thing. The day you got the diploma, you just got recognized for the success that you already were. Now that's very essential, because so many times people have a tendency to devalue the moment, today. What they do is they greatly value the destination. And so they kind of talk about, well, when I get there, or if I arrive there, or when I do that, or when I accomplish this. And they don't understand that success is a daily thing. And I'm here to share with you that the secret of success is determined by your daily agenda. In fact, I wrote a book a few years ago called Today Matters. I'm passionate about that book because what it does is it helps me to understand that we make decisions and then we manage decisions. And too often we think, I will make a decision. For example, you're saying, I'm going to make a decision to be a coach. Or I'm going to make a decision, you know what, I'm going to make a decision to be a public speaker. I want to be a communicator. Well, congratulations. You've made a wonderful decision. Coach, speaking, good decisions. But that won't make you a successful coach. That won't make you a successful communicator. It's not the decision that makes you. You've got to make the decision by managing it, and you manage the decision on a daily basis. In other words, what you want to be tomorrow, you've got to do today. You visualize tomorrow. That gives you hope, and that's your motivation, and that's your dream. Nothing wrong with that. You visualize tomorrow, but you value today. What's that mean? That means that what I do every day is either getting me closer to that vision, that dream, that goal, or it's really driving me farther away from it. You see, every day we are either repairing or we're preparing. You see, if I messed up yesterday, guess what I get to do today? Fix yesterday. In other words, if I didn't do the right thing yesterday, what I got to do today is I've got to repair. I've got to go back, make amends, backtrack, put the car in reverse, put my life in reverse. I've got to go back there. I've got to repair. Now, every day I spend repairing, I'm not spending preparing. Well, you see, we repair when we fail to manage the decisions that we've made. We prepare when we, on a daily basis, manage the decisions that we've made. So your footprints to success are really footprints of success. Because every step that is made and taken based upon the goals that you have for your life, and you're managing those goals correctly, every step is the progressive realization of success in your life. And by the way, you'll get the diploma, you'll get the certificate, but when you get that, you didn't arrive. It just is another step in preparing you to reach your potential. Each one of us should live our life as if we'll never learn everything we need to learn. We'll never be able to accomplish everything we wanted to accomplish. We won't be able to experience everything we wanted to experience. We should live our life every day hungry, understanding that we are to live until we die. You see, I think success can't be summarized in a flippant degree or program or diploma or arrival. I think today, if you are learning to coach, if you are learning to speak, if you're doing the things that are essential to the decisions and you're managing those decisions well, can I say something to you? Congratulations, you are already a success. Now, guess what? Over time, it shows up. You've heard the expression, You maybe have even said it yourself. You've heard the expression, I'm sure. I've worked all my life to become an overnight success. That's the way it works. All of a sudden, somebody recognizes you. All of a sudden, somebody congratulates you. You didn't get good at that moment. You've been good for a long time. It just showed up someday.
Feel good first.
Most people think they'll feel good once they reach some goal. They think happiness is out there somewhere. The problem with putting off feeling good about yourself until you hit a certain goal is that it might never happen. By linking happiness to something you don't have yet, you're denying your power to create it for yourself in the moment. Your happiness is your birthright. It shouldn't depend on your achieving something. Start by claiming it and using it to make your journey fun all the way and not just fun at the end.
Open the present.
Practice being awake in the present moment. Make the most of your awareness of this moment. Don't live in the past unless you like guilt. Don't live in the future unless you like fear. Just stay focused on today. Watch what happens to your motivation.
Live a whole life today.
John Wooden was the most successful college basketball coach of all time. His UCLA teams won 10 national championships in 12 years. Wooden created a major portion of his coaching and living philosophy from one thought, a single sentence passed on to him by his father when Wooden was a little boy. That thought? Make each day your masterpiece. While other coaches would try to gear their players to some kind of important game in the future, Wooden always focused on today. His practice sessions at UCLA were every bit as important as any championship game. In his philosophy, there was no reason not to make today the proudest day of your life. Today is a microcosm of your entire life. It's your whole life in miniature. You've got eternity in the palm of your hand. Life is now. Life is not later on. And the more we hypnotize ourselves into thinking we have all the time in the world to do what we want to do, the more we sleepwalk and the more we miss life.
Small.
Most people participating in the free enterprise system have become thoroughly convinced of the power of setting large and specific long-range goals for themselves. Career goals, yearly goals, and monthly performance goals are always on the mind of a person with ambition. But many people overlook altogether the power of small goals. Goals set during the day that give energy to the day and a sense of achieving a lot of small wins along the way. By increasing your conscious use of small objectives, you'll see the larger objectives coming into reality much faster than you thought they would.
Get out of the box.
All of us tend to look at our challenges from inside a box. We take what we've done in the past and put it in front of our eyes and then try to envision what we call the future. But you see, that restricts our future. With that kind of restricted view, the best the future could possibly be is a new and better past. Great motivational energy occurs when we get out of that box and realize that the possibilities for creative ideas are infinite. To create the best possible future for yourself, don't try to look at it through a box containing your own past. Create the future from nothing.
Advertise to yourself.
Sports psychologist Rod Gilbert says, quote, "Losers visualize the penalties of failure and winners visualize the rewards of success. Without advertising our goals to ourselves, we can lose sight of them altogether." Now, I'll often start the day by drawing 4 circles on a blank piece of paper. The circles represent my day, my month, my year, and my life. Inside each circle, I write down what I want. It can be a dollar figure, it can be anything. And the goals can change from day to day, it doesn't matter. There's no way to get this process wrong. But by writing the goals down, I'm like an airline pilot looking at my map before takeoff. I'm orienting my mind to what I'm up to in life. I'm reminding myself of what I really want. Now, when you get on a plane, would you poke your head into the cabin and say to the pilot, just take me anywhere? That's how we live our lives. That's how we live our lives when we don't make a map.
Don't stop thinking.
Motivation comes from thought. Everything we do begins with a thought. And when we quit thinking, we lose the motivation to act. We eventually slip into pessimism, and the pessimism leads to even less thinking, and so it goes. A downward spiral of negativity and passivity, feeding on each other. Pessimists think so negatively about doing the whole thing perfectly that they end up doing nothing and becoming passive. Whereas the optimist always does a little something, always takes an action, always feels like progress is being made. Pessimists continually use their imaginations to visualize worst-case scenarios, and then concluding that those scenarios are so hopeless that there's no cause for action. Therefore, pessimism always leads to passivity. Optimists agree with Colin Wilson's point of view. He said, imagination should be used not to escape from reality, but to create it. Begin the habit in yourself of saying no to negativity. When negative thoughts start their argument in your mind, which they always do, even for optimists, don't stop thinking. Real creative thinking is going to lead to optimism, and optimism is always self-motivated.
Debate your dark side.
Negative thinking is something we all do. The difference between the person who's primarily optimistic and the person who's primarily pessimistic is that the optimist learns to become a good debater. Once you become thoroughly aware of the effectiveness of optimism in your life, you can learn to debate your pessimistic thoughts. If you catch yourself brooding, worrying, thinking pessimistically about an issue, build a case for the optimistic view. Pretend you're an attorney whose job it is to prove the pessimist in you is wrong. If you really want to open up your life, go optimistic.
Go to war.
Anthony Burgess was 40 when he learned he had a brain tumor that would kill him within a year. He was completely broke, and he didn't have anything to leave behind for his wife Lynn, who was soon to be a widow. Burgess had never been a professional novelist in the past, but he always knew it was inside him to be a writer. So, for the sole purpose of leaving behind royalties for his wife, he put a piece of paper into the typewriter and he began writing. He had no certainty that he'd ever even be published, but he couldn't think of anything else to do. Burgess wrote energetically. He finished 5.5 novels before that year was through, but he didn't die. His cancer had gone into remission, and then it disappeared altogether. In his long and full life, Anthony Burgess wrote more than 70 books. Without the death sentence from cancer, he might not have written anything. You know, it's funny, but research shows that during times of war, suicide rates go down. We don't have to wait for something tragic. We don't have to wait for a war to attack us from without. We can get the same vitality by challenging ourselves from within. Joan of Arc said, all battles are first won or lost in the mind. A useful exercise for self-motivation might be this. Ask yourself, what would you do if you had Anthony Burgess's original predicament? If I had just a year to live, how would I live differently? What exactly would I do? That question can inspire surprising thoughts. It can reveal skills inside you that you're not using today.
Make small change.
When I first began working on self-motivation a long time ago, I'd go through all kinds of emotional mood swings. I'd get really high on the idea of who I could be. I'd set out to change myself overnight. And then my old habits would pull me right back to who I used to be. Then I'd become demoralized. Later in my life, I finally caught on to the idea that great things are often created slowly. Great paintings, great buildings. So why couldn't great people be created slowly? So if you're willing to see yourself as a masterpiece in progress, then you'll love small changes. You'll be excited by a tiny thing you did differently today. If you want a stronger body and you took the stairs instead of the elevator, celebrate. You're moving in the direction of self-creation.
Do something badly.
Sometimes we don't do things because we're not sure we can do them well. We feel we're not in the mood or at the right energy level to do the task we have to, so we put it off or wait for inspiration to arrive. We're so afraid to do things until we're sure we'll do them well, we don't do anything. This is the source of all writer's block, by the way. This tendency led G.K. Chesterton to say, if a thing is worth doing, it's worth doing badly. If you're not motivated to do something you know you need to do, just decide to do it badly. Add a little self-deprecating humor. Be comically bad at what you're doing, and then enjoy what happens to you once you're in the process.
Here's an idea for you. See yourself as an artist when you go to work every day. See yourself as someone who gets to create a masterpiece through your work regardless of what you do. I think every single one of us has a need for creative expression. We all have in our hearts a longing to go to work every day and to create. That's part of what makes us special. Actually, let me put it this way. We all have a creative longing to realize our potential. It's one of the most fundamental of all human hungers. How do you get there? Go to work every day. See yourself as an artist. Be brilliant at what you do. It makes you feel so good. Focus plus time equals genius. Most people, Edison was asked, Edison is a fascinating guy. He had close to 2,000 patents in his life. He was asked, what's the secret of your genius? You know what he said? Most people get up every day, they do many things. I get up every day, I do a few. That is the secret of my mastery. Picasso one day was in a market, and a woman saw him and she said, Mr. Picasso, it's great to see you. I'm a huge fan. He said, nice to meet you. She said, Mr. Picasso, she pulled out a piece of paper and a pencil. Mr. Picasso, can you do a little piece of art for me? Can you do a little drawing? He said, absolutely. Did a beautiful drawing. She looked at it, she said, oh, Mr. Picasso, fantastic. She starts walking away. He goes, my dear lady, that'll be $1 million. She said, Mr. Picasso, $1 million. It took you 30 seconds to do that. He said, my dear lady, it took me 30 years to do that in 30 seconds. When we look at the Bonos of the world, when we look at the leading sales professions of the world, when we look at the best leaders without title, when we look at the masters of HR, the masters of R&D, we look at the best business people, we say, she's gifted, she's smarter than me, she's better with people than me, she just somehow knows more than me, she's got a better education, she had an easier background, she got lucky. You've heard the cliche because it's true, the harder I work, the luckier I get. I'm here today, I'm an ordinary person, but I focused on my craft. I had a burning desire to be excellent. I love what I do. What I do, this leadership message, sharing in my books and speaking is my oxygen, it's my DNA. 4 in the morning I get up and I'm working on my craft because I love it. I love it. I know every single one of us can be a genius quicker than you think, quicker than you think. But if you focus on all things, then to be all things to all people, you can never really get to mastery or specialty. So be stunningly good at what you do on this first big idea of leading without title. Secondly, and by the way, I have found that there's a lot of stress in our world. Would anyone agree with me there's a lot of stress in our world? And sometimes when we become under stress, or we're busy being busy, we forget about focusing on what's most important. Let me, if I may, allow me to share with you one of my favorite stories on stress. I was in a grocery store a little while ago, and I saw a mother pushing her baby. This baby was crying, screaming like you can't imagine. And I overheard the mother saying, don't scream, Jennifer. Don't yell, Jennifer. Be calm, Jennifer. So friends, I couldn't help myself. I walked over to this woman, I said, Madam, I can't tell you how impressed I am by the way you're speaking with your baby. And she looks at me and she says, no, I'm Jennifer. Ladies and gentlemen, every time you blame your background, every time you blame your boss, every time you blame your clients, every time you blame the culture, you're literally giving away your power to influence. You are giving away your power to be the change you want to see in the world, as Gandhi said. I think it's an impotent way to live to say it's because of other people and it's because of circumstances that I'm not playing my best game. My life changed when I realized a simple idea, which is life is a mirror. And life gives us not what we want. Life gives us who we are. And it's amazing what happens as you walk out in the world and as you begin to take responsibility for leading without title, for adding more value, for inspiring people more, for innovating where you're planted, for building relationships, for being the nicest person that you know. What begins to happen through an organization and through your life? Absolute personal responsibility. Fourth point, become outrageously enthusiastic. And again, you're going to say, Robin, let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya. You know, being enthusiastic isn't important. Next thing you're going to tell me is get up in the morning and look in the mirror and saying, I think I am, I think I am. I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself. But isn't it true that the most enthusiastic person in the room influences people? And they elevate people, and they encourage people. Another issue of Fortune magazine a little while ago did a story on Richard Branson's Necker Island conference. He invited all sorts of amazing people, and the reporter in the room said something I've never forgotten. The reporter said, it was striking to me how in each of the conference sessions, the moguls of these giant firms were always the most enthusiastic people in the rooms. It's amazing to me when I meet world-class CEOs. They are the most humble, the most passionate, they are the most engaged, they are the most lively people in the room. I think it's fundamentally important to be the most enthusiastic person you know. I think in so many ways, leadership is about inspiring people by your example. And children are masters of this. Children know these fundamentals. Just a little point on how children remember the simple things. My son Colby is 13. He turned 13 a few months ago. And I believe a child only turns 13 once. So I wanted to create an unbelievable experience for my son Colby. And I'm going to do the same for Bianca when she turns 13. So I decided to take Colby to New York. And I wanted to do an amazing, amazing weekend for Colby. So we had food at my favorite restaurant. We stayed at my favorite hotel. We went to FAO Schwartz. We went to the play Wicked. It was absolutely incredible. That night, Sunday night, on the way home on the airplane, I said to Colby, Colby, what was the most unforgettable thing about our weekend together? A special father and son weekend. You know what he said to me? He said, Dad, on Saturday afternoon when we were sharing that simple pastry on the street, talking and laughing, he said, Dad, that was my favorite moment. It's the simple things that are essential to leadership, the simple things that are essential to life. Be the most enthusiastic person you know. And then the final tactic, give the extra 1%. Leadership doesn't happen when things are easy. Leadership is about how you show up when everyone else feels like going home at the end of the day. Leadership occurs on the extra mile. Leadership occurs when everyone has laughed at your idea. Leadership occurs when you feel like giving up and you reach into yourself and you pull out what Carmichael, who is Lance Armstrong's coach, said, the final 1%. He said what made Lance Armstrong great was everyone else gave up at the end, but he kept that final 1% in reserve. And when everyone else was exhausted and everyone else felt like giving up, Lance Armstrong reached deep within, and that final 1% is what made